targeted for not having licenses that government is no longer issuing, forcing them to pay fines of up to 5,000 rand each time their vehicles are seized. Santako says the law is being enforced selectively, claiming 7-seater vehicles used for e-hailing and informal transport are allowed to operate freely without similar harassment. Santako Ekurhuleni's secretary, Zweli Mnisi.
This unequal treatment by law enforcement places a disproportionate burden on the taxi industry. The halting of taxi operations is a necessary measure to prevent the continued victimization and financial exploitation of our members.
We shift our focus to this now. Tributes are continuing to be shared across various broadcasting platforms, remembering the life of Cidi Madia. It follows the passing of the EWN Associate Politics Editor yesterday. Her death has shocked South Africa's media fraternity, where she was known for her sharp political reporting and her warm yet disarming style. President Cyril Ramaphosa has lauded Cidi for being a journalist who cared deeply for the country. Ramaphosa says he will remember Cidi for her tough questions and her hopeful vision for a country that can and should be better. Presidency spokesperson Vincent Makwenya.
We were at the Oval Office with the president during the bilateral meeting with President Trump. And obviously, like all South Africans, there was a level of anxiety. And, Cidi was not only an objective reporter, but was also a patriotic South African who did not take kindly to have a president treated in that manner and to have her country portrayed in that manner.
And in the UK, award-winning British actor Michael Ward, known for starring in the Netflix series Top Boy, has appeared before a London court today to face rape and sexual assault charges. The 27-year-old, who is amongst the cast of the Hollywood movie Eddington, was charged last month with 5 counts. In a statement, he did deny all the charges he faces in connection with an alleged assault against one woman in January 2023. Ward appeared before the court today, where he spoke to confirm his name, address and date of birth. He did not enter a plea and was granted conditional bail to appear at another London court on September the 25th. Gold is trading at $3,309.07 an ounce. The rand is at 17.65 to the dollar, 23.87 to the pound, 20.62 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $68.05 a barrel.
In your sport, Miguel Cardoso questions Mamelodi Sundowns fans who want him fired. Ruben Amorim says something has to change following Manchester United's League Cup loss to Grimsby. And Yelena Ostapenko rejects racism claims after fiery exchange with Taylor Townsend at the US Open.
It's a partly cloudy afternoon in Gauteng today. Temperatures have peaked at highs of between 27 and 28 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. The father of murdered 4-year-old Nada Jane Chalita says no prison sentence will be able to bring his daughter back to life. Thanks, John. Good afternoon. An inquest docket has been opened after a police sergeant from Brakpan in Ekurhuleni allegedly shot and killed his wife, injured his children, and then turned the gun on himself. Police watchdog IPID says the officer was served with a protection order by his wife following a domestic dispute. It is alleged, that he then followed his wife, who left with their children, to stay with her parents, where he then shot and killed her. Their two children, his mother-in-law and a helper, were also injured during those shootings. IPID spokesperson Lizzie Shuping says the officer then fled the scene in his car, but it was later found and he was dead inside it in Secunda in Mpumalanga.
It is further alleged that when he realized that the police were on his trail, he turned the gun on himself, killing himself. At the Brakpan crime scene, 15 cartridge cases were discovered, together with 8 bullet fragments, 1 live bullet, and 2 5-liter bottles of petrol.
International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola has labelled the United States government so-called Americana migration program Apartheid 2.0. He says government will not be making any concessions to allow the US to fast-track the approval of applications. Recently, the Daily Maverick reported that the US was seeking to have Kenyan-based staffers move to South Africa to help process applications for those claiming to be persecuted in this country. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
Minister Ronald Lamola says the US program, under which mainly white Afrikaners have been seeking refuge in the US, is not a legitimate refugee program. He says those who've already left the country don't fit the United Nations definition of a refugee.
It's a preferential treatment of Afrikaners in South Africa to enter the US. And you know, with our history of our country, a preferential treatment of a particular privileged group, the Afrikaners who are not running away from any genocide in this country, is definitely Apartheid 2.0.
Lamola says government is under no obligation to help facilitate the program, neither to approve visas for US staff for this purpose. This, he says, has been communicated to the US government.
It's an individual application by those individuals, and Home Affairs has processed it in accordance with its laws.
Lamola says while it's anyone's right to want to immigrate, it should not be done under false pretenses. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News.
And the KwaZulu-Natal government has officially turned Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi's grave into a provincial heritage site in honor of his legacy. Buthelezi was the longest-serving Zulu traditional prime minister, having served Zulu kings Bheki Zulu, Zwelithini, and Mrs. Zulu. He was also the longest-serving statesman at the time of his passing in 2023. Premier Thamsanqa Ntuli says government wants to preserve the prince's contributions.
You know that in his journey to help our country to be free as we are free today, he played a pivotal role. He fought for the traditional leadership. Amakosi, he protected the land of the Zulu nation under Ingonyama Trust Act. He was the first to lead KwaZulu government as the chief minister.
Nduli says they also want his role of developing parts of KwaZulu-Natal to be forever cherished.
Through his leadership, we saw schools, colleges of education, universities, and economic zones, such as in KwaSithebe and Emapoteni.
In your weather, it's a partly cloudy afternoon in Gauteng today. Temperatures have peaked at highs of between 27 and 28 degrees. The top story in EWN, an inquest docket has been opened after a police sergeant from Brakpan in Ekurhuleni allegedly shot and killed his wife, injured his children, and then turned the gun on himself.
Afternoon, John. While Miguel Cardoso says Mamelodi Sundowns' draw with Kaizer Chiefs feels like a defeat, that's after the two sides played out a stalemate at the Betway Premiership. The result sees the league's defending champions register a fourth draw in 7 games of the new season as they move up to third on the log, while Cardoso has also defended himself against calls from some supporters for him to be fired.
Last year, Orlando Pirates made the semi-final of the Champions League. We played with them twice, we didn't lose. Of course we wanted to win. And I don't seem that we were worse than Orlando Pirates. Also, we were not worse here. A team that reinforced a lot, that keeps the work, that has in front of their fans 60,000 people in the stadium. And we also had our moments to control the match. Why am I obliged to win every match and be charged by that, and the other people can drop? And we are not charged the same way.
Manchester United's season has hit a new low just 3 games in. That's after they were knocked out of the League Cup by 4th-tier Grimsby Town. The game went to penalties after the Red Devils had to come from 2-0 down and then eventually lost the shootout 12-11. Ruben Amorim has now questioned his team's desire to be successful.
It's not about the formation. We play against Arsenal, we play really well the formation. We play against Liverpool, we go to Europa League final in the disaster season with the same system. The system is not important. We can play with 3 defenders, 4 defenders, 5 defenders. That doesn't matter. What matters is that we need to be different, and that is the job of the coach, and you can see that nothing changed.
Yelena Ostapenko has rejected suggestions she was racist after a post-match exchange with Taylor Townsend at the US Open. The pair engaged in a finger-pointing row at the side of the court following Townsend's 7-5 and 6-1 victory. Ostapenko later took to social media to accuse her opponent of being disrespectful, that's for not apologizing for a net ball, and then criticize her conduct during the warm-up before she was met with allegations of racism.
She pulled out all the stops to try and break the momentum, and, sometimes people do that, but it is what it is. Still is no beef, but again, like you guys saw, I didn't back down because you're not going to insult me, especially after I carried myself a certain type of way with nothing but respect. And if I show respect to you, I expect respect as well. And that's just the fact of the matter. And I think that that's tennis. No matter what's going on, it's me versus you. But at the end of the day, we have to respect each other and respect what happens out on the court. It's competition.
And Daniil Medvedev has been fined $42,000 by the US Open for his meltdown during the loss to Benjamin Bozzi at the start of the week. Medvedev lost in 5 sets and afterwards launched a tirade against the umpire and whipped up jeering fans who stopped his opponent from serving. Medvedev then smashed his racket after the match concluded, prompting 6-time Grand Slam champion Boris Becker to say that the Russian needed to seek professional help in the wake of his public meltdown. Tolagile Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
Rand. 1.9 is pretty close to that ceiling, isn't it? 2 million Rand is the biggest win you can get. Now, every spin increases the pot, so it's growing and growing and growing all the time. So pick any slot game and get spinning. Who knows? It could be your lucky spin that wins. That was certainly true of somebody who's won a life-changing amount of money. Get way more with Betway. 702 Drive.
Betway is licensed and regulated by the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. For gambling counseling, call SARGF on 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp 076 675 0710.
Let's rewind 6 years, when Twitter was still Twitter, and not a letter of the alphabet. TikTok was simply the sound your clock made. And Zoom just meant enlarging a picture. So it makes you wonder, what will the next 6 years bring? Hino trucks now come standard with a 6-year drivetrain warranty, covering everything from pistons to gears. So although a lot can change in 6 years, our warranty promise won't. T's and C's apply. Hino, all the way.
Naked people are popular at Braais. They're top of the guest list every time and always rock up with the primo cuts. That's because naked people save cash every month with online car and home insurance, which means less money spent on insurance premiums and more money for lamb chops the size of your face. Go to naked.insure now, get a car insurance quote in 90 seconds, and get naked. People, Naked Financial Technology is an authorized FSP.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hey John, Jake's here, Waterkloof Clan, Pretoria East. This woman who just called to say people coming to baptize at her house. You know, I'm not a church goer, but I mean, really? Is a swimming pool full of gold, liquid gold? I mean, it's just water. What is wrong with people? How do people tarnish your dignity if they ask just to baptize? I mean, gee.
Well, I guess that's one view. I mean, the question I would ask as a follow-up, though, is does she have any particular relationship with that church? If she doesn't, then I guess you would say, well, hey, this is my privacy and it's my home. And presumably this was on a weekend. I would not describe that as acting unreasonably, but maybe I'm unreasonable. Give us a call with a view on that if you like. 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702. The question we asked from you, the strangest requests you've had asked of you by either people you know or neighbors or family members or, work colleagues it could be. This is from a work colleague Vito, sending us this from Manila. That's cool. In the Philippines, says, a male colleague asked me for advice, which I gave convincingly. But then he asked me to call his wife and convince her too. And Vito, I think many people would agree, wisely said, no, actually, he thinks he'll probably opt out of that one. Fair enough.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hey John, I kid you not. My mother is 79, turning 80 soon. Since she was 75 years old, her church almost demands that she brings a cake to cater for the almost 200 congregation at church. She has to buy the cake. She has to make sure that there are paper plates for everybody. She has to cater for everybody, the congregation. And this is an old woman that walks with a walking stick. Totally unbelievable. Nobody has ever offered. And all the elderly people in the congregation, they have to provide the cake to celebrate their own birthday. Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the scale of it is substantial, and obviously what you say about the age of the person is also a significant factor in the point you're making. maybe that's a whole conversation we'll have some other time. On somebody's birthday, who's responsible for bringing the cake? I've worked in places where both apply. Sometimes there's a cake provided. Sometimes, hey, it's your birthday. Spread the love. Spread the cake. Get a knife. Get some paper plates. We are keen for something sweet. Call me on that if you like. 7 minutes to 4.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Well, let's turn now to a very important and a very special story. It concerns a 16-year-old young man, Indako Matlachana, who was born with a cleft palate. It made it hard for people to understand him. Some of his teachers even suggested he ought to go to a special school. But last year, with the support of initiatives backed by the Dischem Foundation, he chose to undergo surgery to make an important change to his life. And today he joins us to share how that brave decision and, of course, the right help of people concerned to help him with this changed his life. Indako, a very good afternoon to you and welcome to 702. Thank you so much for giving us your time. It's great to have you on our show with us.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, when you decided to undergo this surgery, how difficult was the decision? Did you have to give it a lot of thought?
Yes, because I was nervous.
Yeah. Going to a hospital is nervous for anybody. Had you been to a hospital before?
Oh,
So when you got to the hospital, Indako, what helped you and who helped you to get through this difficulty?
My family and my friends and doctors.
Yeah, the doctors. Hey?
Yes.
Did the doctors spend a lot of time explaining to you what was going to happen?
Yes.
And what did they say? I mean, because you had to try and imagine not something that was happening to somebody else, but something that was happening to you. Yeah, sorry, my question's a little bit complicated. So, but before you went for the operation, Indako, tell us a little bit about your life. I mean, what made you decide this is scary, but I'm going to do it?
I was lonely.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I was no tips. I was arrogant.
Yeah.
Yeah, my life was not in a good shape.
And the loneliness, where did that come from? Was it because you had difficulty speaking to people?
Yes.
Had you become very shy as a result?
Yes, I was.
How are things now? You're here in your smart school uniform. How's school going?
It's better, but I'm still not learning.
So not everything is not perfect. You've still got some challenges ahead, hey?
Yes.
What's going well for you at school? I mean, do you have subjects you particularly like? What else do you do at school?
Science and physics.
Science and physics?
Yeah.
My worst subjects. Are you any good at them?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of doors that open up for people who are good at science and physics. But we'll come back to you in a moment, Indako, but let's welcome as well Jacqueline Karlberg, our regular guest from the Dischem Foundation. Jacqueline, how did you guys come to be involved and what was your part in this?
So Indako came to our attention. We work a lot with the Smile Foundation, who do incredible work. And we went on a visit to one of the hospitals. And Sylvia shared this beautiful story of this young man and how he was his own hero because he decided he was having this surgery, which he couldn't have when he was younger for various reasons. And he'd had enough of being bullied and talked down and the loneliness that he has spoken to. And it really, really touched a chord. And I just couldn't get him off my mind.
Yes.
So I approached the Smile Foundation and said, I really want this young man, the hero that he is in his own everyday life, to come and inspire other people on the radio and to speak to us and to share his story. And I think it is quite ominous. And I think he's doing exceptionally well, and I'm so proud to be in the room with him. I think he's special, that at such a young age to take your life into your own hands and say, I'm not living like this anymore. I want to make a difference in my own life. And I think he could be a leader for so many others and inspire them to do what he has done.
Tell us about the Smile Foundation. I mean, I think a lot of people, Jacqueline, know about their work, but a brief summary. They've been going for a while now and making a huge difference.
A huge difference. You know, it started with fixing the muscles don't allow for a child, a newborn, to smile, which is a 10-hour surgery. And then they started with cleft palates and the like, and hair lips. And they don't just do that anymore. They're doing a lot of life-changing and sometimes life-saving operations. And the Smile Foundation is incredible with the work that they do. And not only is it the operations, it's the support that somebody like Indako and their families have when they go into the Smile Foundation. It's often a very trepidatious operation that these children are having. They're having facial defects, and society is not kind.
Yes.
And they make the whole process so much easier for the recipient of the operation and the families.
So Indako, just a last one for you. Talk about science and physics. That's your best subject. I'm sure you're good at some other subjects as well. I know you've still got school to get through and exams to pass, but have you started thinking, is science where you want to go with your life when you finish school?
Yes.
And what do you see yourself doing? I mean, when you think of being a scientist, what comes to mind for you?
I want to be a doctor.
A doctor?
Yes, because I want to help others.
And have you spoken to some of the doctors who helped you and said, listen, how do I do this? What's the life of a doctor like? Have you connected with them on that?
No, but I go online.
Okay.
Yeah, to see there.
So in a few years' time, we will welcome to our studio Dr. Matlachana. We certainly hope that happens. But well done on the choices you've made. Best of luck with your studies and everything going forward. And I hope the positive turn that you've taken in your life continues to be a very positive road for you. Thanks to Indako Matlachana joining us, a beneficiary of the Smile Foundation, and to Jacqueline Kohlberg joining us from the Dis-Chem Foundation. And thank you, of course, to the amazing members of the Dis-Chem and Dis-Chem Baby City Benefit Program. Every swipe of your Dis-Chem or Baby City Benefit card helps support the incredible work of the Dis-Chem Foundation. If you're not a member, visit dischem.co.za to find out how you can join the Dis-Chem and Dis-Chem Baby City Benefit Program. Remember, every swipe counts. It's 4:00.
This is EWN.
The NPA to argue for a heavy sentence for a killer teacher, and more shocking details emerge in the mass murder trial in Lusikisiki. Good afternoon, I'm Bali Dlamini. The National Prosecuting Authority says it will be arguing for a maximum sentence for self-confessed killer Amberly Hughes. Today, the 25-year-old was found guilty of the murder and rape of 4-year-old Nada Jane Chalita, who was her ex-boyfriend's child. Chalita's body was found in a bathtub filled with cold water in 2023, Ntokozo Khumalo reports.
2 months ago, Amberly Hughes' judgment was meant to be handed down by the High Court, but due to Hughes' last-minute change in legal representation, the case was postponed. With a guilty judgment handed to the former preschool teacher today, Nada Jane Chalita's family have shared that they have mixed emotions about how things have unfolded. Gauteng NPA spokesperson Phindi Mjolondwane says she hopes that the outcome gives the family the much-needed solace.
So we hope that the father will also find closure now that we've reached the stage, and going forward as the NPA we will be arguing for a sentence that will send a message that this type of behavior cannot be tolerated.
She adds that the NPA will be arguing for the maximum sentence to be handed down. Ndogozo Khumalo, Eyewitness News.
Let's stay in the courts. A key witness in the Lusikisiki mass murder case has revealed that accused number 1, Mzugisi Ndamase, orchestrated the crime while behind bars. The witness was a co-accused in the murder case but turned state witness. He is currently testifying in the murder trial of the 18 people who were shot and killed in Lusikisiki in September last year. The matter is being heard in the Mthatha High Court, which is sitting in Lusikisiki. Nhlanhla Mabaso is there.
The witness, who cannot be named for security reasons, is giving testimony under heavy security presence, including bodyguards assigned to him. He admitted to having been a drug dealer and that he met Ndamase behind bars. The witness then implicated the accused in a series of criminal elements, most of which were committed while in custody at the Mthatha prison, where he was serving a life sentence for murder. He told the court they were close and had smoked and eaten together at times. He added that he knew Ndamase was powerful and wanted to get protection from him. He further testified that accused 1 had a gang working for him which would carry out criminal deeds. Proceedings are set to continue, with the witness expected to give details about the Ngobozana mass murder. Nhlanhla Mabaso, Eyewitness News, Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape.
The Special Investigating Unit has welcomed the sentencing of a woman found guilty of fraud and money laundering in the Free State. This was in connection with the COVID-19 Temporary Employee Relief Scheme. Nzibeng Mjoji and her company Aqualand and Swimming Services was slapped with a fine of more than 1 million rand for theft or 4 years in prison by the Putadichaba Magistrates Court. Thando Luhlengcobo has more.
The sentencing follows the SIU's investigation, which uncovered that in 2020, Nzibeng Moji's company lodged fraudulent COVID-19 temporary relief scheme applications with the UIF on behalf of 16 people who were not employees. Spokesperson Kaiser Khanyago.
The UIF subsequently paid 178,128 into Aqualand's business account.
The evidence was referred to the NPA and it formed the basis for her arrest in February this year. Upon interviewing one of the alleged employees, the SIU confirmed that the person had never been employed by Aqualand and had never received any payments from the company. The SIU has welcomed the sentencing, adding this is the positive results of the outcomes of its investigations. Thando Luhlengcobo, Eyewitness News.
We shift our focus to this now. With more than half of the country's G20 meetings having already taken place, South Africa's presidency of the grouping has entered the last 100 days. Government is now counting down to the Leaders' Summit in November, but it still remains unclear whether US President Donald Trump, who is expected to take over the presidency, will be attending. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
With 87 out of the 132 meetings on the G20 calendar already crossed off, G20 working groups are now seized with negotiations on ministerial declarations and outcomes. While the Development Working Group and the Employment Working Group have already achieved this, the finance track is not quite there, having only agreed to a communique on macroeconomic issues. Of particular significance is the second meeting of foreign ministers on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly in New York on the 25th of next month. With preparations towards the Leaders' Declaration also underway, International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola says while all leaders are naturally invited, it's yet unclear who will come to the November summit.
President Trump send somebody else is his decision. We will proceed with the G20 with or without President Trump.
Meanwhile, Lamola says he believes Chinese President Xi Jinping will attend. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News.
And the first group of migrants has arrived in Rwanda as part of a deal to accept deportees from the United States. The Rwandan government says 3 of the 7 individuals have expressed a desire to return to their home countries, while 4 wish to stay and build lives in Rwanda. Authorities have not revealed information about the nationalities of the 7 who have been deported. Gold is trading at $3,403.91 an ounce. The rand is at 17.67 to the dollar, 23.84 to the pound, 20.60 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $68.05 a barrel.
Midrand accident scene N1 near Allendale causing heavy delays in both directions. That's between New Road and the Buthelezi interchange. Also leaving Sandton heading towards Midrand. Expect more than a 20-minute delay. M1 northbound from Ethel Oaklands all the way to the Buthelezi interchange. And in Sunning Hill, traffic sluggish on Witkoppen Road between Rivonia Road and Maxwell Drive.
In your sport, Miguel Cardoso questions Mamelodi Sundowns fans who want him fired. Ruben Amorim says something has to change following Manchester United's League Cup loss to Grimsby. And Yelena Ostapenko rejects racism claims after fiery exchange with Taylor Townsend at the US Open.
In your weather, a fine Friday in store for Gauteng tomorrow. Joburg dropping to overnight lows of 14 degrees, peaking at 27. Pretoria 15 and 29, and Vereeniging 14 and 28 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour, the National Prosecuting Authority says it will be arguing for a maximum sentence for self-confessed killer Amber Lee Hughes.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
702.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
On 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive, it's 9 minutes past 4, and it's good to have you with us on this Thursday, the final Thursday in August as we move closer towards spring. When is spring? Because we often talk about September 1 as Spring Day, and then we get greeted by a cold snap. Those of you who understand seasons and climate and look at these things perhaps more academically than most of us, when is spring? When does spring start in South Africa? My expectation is September is going to make us shiver one more time. How does the song go? February made us shiver. Yeah, anyway, forget about that. That's a North American song. But yeah, when is spring? Let us know on 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702. Coming up on the show, we are going to be taking a closer look at a tariff error in regard to electricity, which is going to up your bill and mine. We have a whole lot of questions that we're going to be putting to the representative of Nersa. Joining us on the show, Rulani Matebula, Executive Manager for Electricity at the National Electricity Regulator of South Africa, National Energy Regulator of South Africa. Looking forward to that interview that's coming up in about 5 minutes' time. I do know there was a dispute. Eskom was involved. Nersa was involved. It went to court, or there was certainly a legal process of some kind of arbitration. And as a result, our 5.4% increase for next year is now 8.8%. The 6.2% increase for the following year is now also 8.8%. This is not good news. We need to understand a little better how all of that happened. I've been asking you questions about people who've come to you with rather strange requests. Some of you have sent me your responses. Let's take a listen.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hi, good afternoon, John. I live in Boksburg, Impala Park. And I can tell you this electricity is already so expensive because we can only afford to buy 300 rand a week. And trust me when I tell you, when I buy 300 rand a week, already 151 rand go for taxes. That's now your VAT, your surcharge and whatever. And you only get 149 rands electricity, which is probably, I think, if I remember correctly, 62 units, which lasts only 2 to 3 days and then it's done again anyway, you know. So if they're still going to increase it at this 3, whatever percent, how much are we going to get? We could only afford 300 rand at a time. It's scary, Impala Park.
702. WhatsApp John on 072 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702. 702 1702.
Yeah, it's Gary laying bare really the implications of those numbers, because I would imagine out in Impala Park, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if you're a direct Eskom client or it's the Metro's electricity provider that provides you and bills you. But either way, whatever comes out of Eskom finds its way into our bills, whether there's an intermediary or not. I did at the start of the show thank everybody for your support and your wonderful words of kindness and condolence in regard to the passing of Cidi Madia. I did also mention that if anyone felt yesterday they didn't get a chance to say what they want to say, please send us something, which Kathy has done. And let me just share this, which is addressed to all the people of 702 land, including the staff. Kathy says, I was out all yesterday and only turned my radio on at 7 o'clock. This was when I heard about Cidi. I'm intentionally using her first name only, Kathy says, because she felt like a friend, even though I was incredibly respectful of and impressed by Cidi Madia's professionalism. I made a point of listening to her reporting. It was succinct, articulate, and without nonsense. Cidi was very popular with the listeners, a gift to the nation, and Kathy concludes, I'm going to miss her so much. Thank you for that. 702 Drive, 13 past 4.
EWN Traffic.
This Eyewitness News Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance in partnership with 702. Problems out in Midrand, problems I understand persisting.
Yes, we're still dealing with that accident scene, John, in the Midrand area, N1 near Allendale, causing heavy delays in both directions. That's between New Road and the Buthelezi interchange. As a result, leaving Sandton, heading towards the Midrand area, heading towards that accident scene, you can expect more than a 20-minute delay. M1 northbound between Ethel Oaklands and the Buthelezi interchange in Sunning Hill. Traffic sluggish on Witkoppen Road. This is from Rivonia Road all the way to Maxwell Drive. Also in Devland, roadwork slowing down traffic still on the Golden Highway between the N1 and Union Avenue. There's also slow-moving traffic in the Germiston area. This is traveling towards Bedford View on the N3 northbound between the Ilands interchange and Van Buren. And in Pretoria North, also expect some delays on Paul Kruger from Eskiam Pahlele all the way to Rachel de Beer. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. The Outsurance pointsmen know that every car on the road carries a story. There's a car on the way to the hospital, carrying an elderly couple, playfully bantering about who their first grandchild will look like.
Not your business.
The Outsurance pointsmen know it's not just a car in traffic. It's bringing two generations together. Every story is different, and every story matters. That's why the Outsurance pointsmen have been doing what they do since 2005, in proud partnership with 702. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
Live extra at Checkers, SA's #1 value for money supermarket, and save on Oma Auto liquid detergent, 1.5 litre or capsules, 14 or 16 pack, any two for 159 Rand. Parmalat cheddar or Gouda cheese, 850 grams, any two for 239 Rand. And ripe and ready avocados, buy any 2 packs and save 10 Rand. Valid until Sunday at Checkers, Checkers Hyper, or shop on 6060.
There's power in a single partner who helps you build a better employee benefits strategy. Begin with retirement, the foundation of securing your employee's future. Now layer in everyday health, mental wellness, and financial balance. And finally, essential protection for life's curveballs, from illness to income loss. Now that sounds like a complete benefit strategy, one that protects your people and powers your business. Talk to us at employeebenefits@oldmutual.com about Old Mutual Corporate's integrated employee benefits solutions. Old Mutual Corporate is a division of Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited, a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
Are you ready to explore your beautiful country in style? With Lekker Slaap's user-friendly accommodation booking app, finding the perfect stay has never been easier. Whether you're dreaming of a beach escape, a bush retreat, or a city adventure, Lekker Slaap has you covered with thousands of stays for every budget. Join millions of happy South Africans who book their stays on Lekker Slaap. Download the Lekker Slaap app today and easily book your next holiday.
702 was live from the AXA International Indaba Conference Center as Airports Company South Africa announced their 2024-2025 annual financial results.
It's a very exciting day to announce the results for AXA with their sterling performance. What makes it so significant is that it creates a buffer, almost like a balance between aeronautical revenue, which is aviation revenue. It mitigates the risk. So you diversify revenue so that you don't have over-reliance on just one stream of income. That's a significant part of it. And it has been growing significantly, like almost balanced 50-50 with the aviation revenue in the past few years.
Airports Company South Africa is proud to be sustaining the pulse of SA's economy and global connectivity. Visit airports.co.za for more info. 702. Let's walk the talk.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive. Let's deal with this now at 18 minutes past 4. South Africans will be paying more for electricity, already paying a burden that many of you say is almost unbearable. But following a resolution of a dispute between the National Energy Regulator of South Africa on the one hand and Eskom on the other, the increases that we were expecting for 2026-27 are 5.4% and 6.2% for the following year have now both been bumped up to 8.8%. The underlying number that has prompted this is 54 billion rand. The origins of that number, though, are the subject of a great deal of unhappiness because that has been established was the result of a miscalculation by the National Energy Regulator of South Africa, Nersa, in determining how much money Eskom should get in the first place. Nersa has acknowledged what they call, quote, identified errors in the determination that they come up with after Eskom's price review application. So the costs will be passed on to all the rest of us. Let's talk about this then with Rulani Matebula, Executive Manager for Electricity at Nersa. A very good afternoon to you, Mr. Matebula, and thanks very much for your time. Your colleague Nomfundo Maseti is quoted in News 24 as saying, and I'll read the full sentence, this settlement agreement represents a fair and balanced resolution. People faced with yet another increase would say, what's fair and balanced about this?
John, afternoon, and afternoon to your viewers. So what we are saying as the regulator, and now talking to the very same statement that you just spoke to, is to say that as a regulator, obviously we have a duty, and our duty is towards both the utility and the consumers. So we need to ensure that whatever price determination that we come up with does not put the going concern of the utility at jeopardy, and also does not make the price of the service rendered to be unaffordable. So it's a balance between those. In this case, to be specific, it's where the shortfall that we had, which was the difference between what Eskom had asked for their generation business and what we had resolved as the regulator in January 2025.
Yes,
there was a shortfall of 107 billion. So which means there was 107 billion that we as a regulator had not allowed for Eskom to recoup within this MYPD6. So, however, in that process, when Eskom looked at our reason for decision, which is the document that we produce and share with the licensee or the applicant, they realized that when they compare how we have arrived to the numbers that we provided for generation versus how we arrived to the numbers that we provided for distribution and their transmission business, they were not comfortable with how we have arrived to our numbers on the generation business.
So, Mr. Matabula, if I can come in there, I mean, that is the genesis of what we sit with now. But I want to come back to your characterization of the decision you've made, and I'll go further into the comment made by your colleague Nomfundo Maseti, in which you say it safeguards the interests of South African electricity consumers. In what way does it do that? Because in effect, what you are saying is that South African consumers will have to pay substantially more for electricity for the next 2 years to cover over an error that was made by Nersa. In what way is the consumer being protected there?
Yeah. John, before we probably come to that, let me indicate that in the application that Eskom had made, actually, if Eskom had their way, the consumer would have experienced a double-digit increase over the 3-year period. And however, due to the intervention of the regulator, that's why today in January when we made the decision, we had pronounced the 5.6% for this coming year and the 6.5% for the other year, which is 2027.
6.2, yes.
6.2. So that was due to the intervention of the regulator.
I understand, Mr. Matabula, that you're saying the regulator has done some work in protecting the consumer, but the fact remains that there was a substantial error made by Nersa in the course of doing its core job, for which the consumer now has to pay. Again, I put my question to you: in what way does this decision safeguard us?
Yeah. Then let me talk to the error. So the error was not in the failure to apply the correct method in determining what is due to Eskom. However, the error was in documenting and publishing our decision, where Eskom picked up that the shortfall on generation business was actually much lower than it was supposed to have been if we had followed the process as we did for their distribution as well as the transmission business.
But in fairness, Mr. Matabula, I must come in at this point. An error was made, which now means that never mind ordinary consumers, businesses who try to do forward planning, and you would know all about that, having worked in the business world yourself, were banking on a particular price for electricity. They've got to pay a price substantially more. If you look at the role that both Eskom and Nersa are meant to play in acting as not only safeguards for the energy sector, but enablers of an effective and growing economy. This is a massive setback. An error was made. Has anybody been disciplined, lost their jobs? Are there any consequences at all within Nersa for an error of this gravity?
Yeah, John, what I can say is that these figures that we see is actually what we believe as a regulator that it is prudently due to Eskom. And these are the figures actually that were supposed to have been pronounced in January already. However, on our reason for decision, when we published this, there was an error on what we pronounced for the next financial or the next year and the year after, which is where the current impact is. So we had to obviously correct that and ensure that our decision in terms of the allowable revenue to Eskom is a true representation of what we actually arrived at when we did the analysis initially.
But my question is a factual one, Mr. Matabula, the context that you sketch out notwithstanding. A serious error was made that has grave consequences both for consumers and for the companies and small businesses that are meant to drive the country forward economically. Have there been any consequences for anyone at all at Nersa? I mean, the answer surely is just a simple one of fact.
Yeah, no, look, John, the consequence management process is embedded in any organization. So that is taking...
I'm asking you about your organization. Has anyone suffered any consequence? Perhaps the answer yes or no, as yet, as we sit at the end of August.
No, that remember that this decision that we talk about has been concluded recently.
Okay.
So that
no
process,
no consequences yet.
That process is unfolding within the organization.
Thank you so much, Rulani Matebula, Executive Manager for Electricity at Nersa. I mean, I'd love to know, the point I've made is something I assume, but perhaps you can put some flesh on the bones if indeed the bones are the correct body parts. But if in business, did you start making plans based on 5.4? And what are the implications for you of 8.8? I would have thought that's a substantial variance, and I would have thought that if you're looking at bottom line but also money for investment, the implications are substantial as well. But call me, let me know. You're in the world of creating work and creating prosperity, which I'm not. 072 702 1702, 28 minutes past 4.
EWN Business.
Stephen Critters, a very good afternoon to you. The markets again down today, but not hugely.
Yeah, John, good afternoon. I mean, just to pick up, if I may, on your conversation with Nersa, I mean, just astonishing that he can't give you a straight yes or no answer. We know what the answer is. Obviously, no. There has been no one held accountable. But Harmony, just to give you an indication of how important this is for companies, Harmony Gold today, a record dividend, right? The gold price right now is $3,409. I mean, it's astonishing. Their shares are down. One of the reasons their shares are down is because their costs are up 17%. Now, John, you can ask me, why are their costs up 17%? But you already know the answer. That's because of electricity. Now, we're speaking to the CEO of Implats on the Money Show this evening. They're investing as fast as they can into renewable energy for their refineries. And what that's going to mean, essentially, is that companies that can are going to get away from Eskom as quickly as they can. And that means that someone still has to fund Eskom. So what you say and how you approach that was entirely correct. Nersa have made a big mistake here, and I think they're going to be huge implications. I'll get off my soapbox now.
Stay as long as you like.
It's astonishing. I mean, really. The JSE All Share is down 0.05% at 101,954 points. Financials down up 0.75%. Industrials down 0.06%, and resources down 1.09%. So Harmony Gold, yes, the average gold price was up 27% during the time because their costs are so high. This has really pushed up. This has really pushed their share price down. They're not the only one, by the way. Harmony and Goldfields are also down today. So is Sibanye-Stillwater after their results are up. They're down 7%. And then Blue Label Telecom, after their update that came out yesterday, they're still down nearly 9% after losing an astonishing amount yesterday. Quite a lot of corporate news out today because the electricity price also having an impact on Rainbow Chicken, but in another way. So they had less load shedding over the last year. Well, I suppose we all did. That helped push their headline earnings per share up by over 200%. Also, of course, the end of the avian flu outbreak having a big impact on that. The group saying its turnaround strategy is helping, while their revenue was up by 9%. Impala Platinum, they are up 2.5% after they released their results today. They did have slightly lower output. They did have some one-off events and a lot of heavy flooding. But also the CEO suggesting today, and we'll ask him about it later, that platinum prices he thinks will be generally sort of supportive for the next 18 months. In other words, he's expecting the platinum price to help them out and not drop anymore, so long as no more production comes online. Kumba are up 5%, Sasol up 3.86%, and then Glencore are up 2.8% on the day so far. Sibanye-Stillwater, I meant to mention, posting a loss of over 3.5 billion rand. And then in the US, we're seeing that stocks, the Nasdaq opens slightly higher, but is dropping now after Nvidia's results. But there are also concerns about the US trade war with China and what that's going to do with chip sales. So the Dow Jones is down 0.14, the Nasdaq is down 0.02, The S&P 500 is down 0.09 at the moment. The gold price, John, astonishing. $3,409.22 an ounce. Platinum, $1,347.05. Brent crude, $67.07 a barrel. The rand to the dollar, 17.67 to the euro, 20.65 to the British pound, 23.90. I'm going to give the soapbox a quick service. I'll be back in an hour. Stephen Curtis, EWN Business.
Thanks, Stephen. To the news desk we go now, and Bali Dlamini with the latest. Good afternoon.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. Family, friends, colleagues, and government representatives continue to trickle into the family home of late EWN Associate Politics Editor Cidi Madia. The 42-year-old died in a Johannesburg hospital yesterday following a short illness. Hundreds of tributes have been pouring in since the news of her passing, including from President Cyril Ramaphosa, who described her as a remarkable citizen and a thought leader. This afternoon, mourners gathered at Madia's home have remembered her not only as a respected journalist, but as a daughter of the Germiston community with a great impact. Family spokesperson Mahlatse Mahlase.
We know that this is a shared loss because Cidi loved what she did and she loved her colleagues and she extended of herself to her colleagues.
3 years since its appointment, the work of the National Anti-Corruption Advisory Council has come to an end. It was chaired by the now acting Police Minister Feroz Kachalia. One of the council's key recommendations is the establishment of a permanent, independent and overarching anti-corruption body. Today, the President received the final report at the Union Buildings, which is expected to further advise him on how to strengthen the state's anti-corruption architecture. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
The presidency says the NACAC final report, which is expected to be released publicly, consists of a set of recommendations to strengthen and coordinate the work of law enforcement agencies, the use of artificial intelligence to prevent corruption, and the establishment of an anti-corruption data sharing framework. President Cyril Ramaphosa said the recommendations will have to be thoroughly reviewed and, where appropriate, acted upon without any due delay. Ramaphosa added that the state needs to build transparent, accountable and ethical institutions in which corruption is unable to take root. He says the NACAC, which he appointed in August 2022, has given full effect to its mandate and has provided a firm, evidence-based foundation to take forward a comprehensive response to corruption. The recommendations are to be tabled before Cabinet for deliberation to determine how they will be adopted and implemented. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News.
And in the UK, award-winning British actor Michael Ward, known for starring in the Netflix series Top Boy, has appeared before a London court today to face rape and sexual assault charges. A 27-year-old, who is also amongst the cast of the Hollywood movie Eddington, was charged last month with 5 counts. In a statement, he denied all the charges he faces in connection with an alleged assault against a woman in January of 2023. Ward appeared before court today, where he spoke only to confirm his name, address and date of birth. He did not enter a plea and was granted conditional bail to next appear at another London court on September the 25th. In your weather, a fine Friday in store for Gauteng tomorrow. Lows of between 14 and 15 degrees and highs of between 27 and 29.
Bumper-to-bumper traffic in the Midrand area travelling towards Sandton. That's the N1 south between New Road and the Buthelezi interchange due to an earlier accident. Also leaving Sandton heading towards Midrand. You can expect about a 20-minute delay. M1 northbound from Ethel Auckland to the Buthelezi interchange. And in Sunninghill, traffic remains sluggish on Witkoppen Road between Rivonia Road and Maxwell Drive.
The top story in EWN: family, friends, colleagues and government representatives continue to trickle into the family home of late EWN Associate Politics Editor Cidi Madia.
Aubrey Masango.
Weekday evenings,
8 to midnight.
Poverty is a very violent thing. Poverty is violent, takes away dignity, takes away rational thinking. And sometimes we get ourselves in a position where we try to combat, to fight against the effects of poverty and its violence by doing things that further violate us, making decisions that are irrational, that put us into further debt, into further indignity. So the cycle goes on and on. And that is a very, 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 very powerful observation. What will people say? Batho ba tla reng?
Aubrey Masango.
8 to midnight on 702.
702.
Let's talk tills. Most just take money. But what if your till could think for you? Introducing Yoko Counter, the smartest till you'll ever own. Cut guesswork and save time with integrated payments, real-time reports, seamless stock management, and easy staff tracking. It's all connected right there on one device. Upgrade to Yoko Counter at yoko.com.
My friend always says, not my problem, bro. But what if it was your sister, your mother, your daughter? Gender-based violence is everyone's problem. And good men don't look away. If you see abuse, don't be silent. Report it. Call the SA Police on 10111 or the GBVF Command Center on 0800 428 428. Strong men protect. Strong women stand up. Together, we can end gender-based violence and femicide. Break the vicious cycle. Act now. A message from Government Communications, the GCIS.
Are you living with diabetes? Tired of painful fingerstick tests? Introducing a new continuous glucose monitoring system from Abbott Laboratories. The Freestyle Libre 2 system sends glucose readings straight to your compatible smartphone. With minute-by-minute glucose readings, optional glucose alarms, and excellent accuracy, the Freestyle Libre system is here to support you in the management of your diabetes. For more information and where to buy your Freestyle Libre 2 sensor, visit www.freestylelibre.za.com. Now available at your local pharmacy.
EWN Sport.
Right. Let's catch up with what's happening in the world of sport. Eric Tinkler, an unhappy man, Tolakele.
Absolutely, John, and he's blamed the referee for Sekhukhune United dropping points in the Betway Premiership for the first time this season. They played out a 1-1 draw with Amazulu, but that game was dominated by the sending off of Thabang Monare. Monare was dismissed by referee Cedric Mvula after saying he wouldn't cut off his pandla, which was covered by tape.
I thought the team showed great character again. We didn't start the game well. Started poorly, gave away possession quite easily. But we spent 17 minutes playing with 10 men, which is ridiculous, to be honest. But yeah, 1-0 down, but I thought there was only one team, really. Yeah, we're chasing the game. They're going to have a chance here and there. But we responded really well, and I think we deserved more than what we got.
Miguel Cardoso has tried to ease fears about Mamelodi Sundowns' form by saying the club are in a rebuilding phase. They played out a goalless draw with Kaizer Chiefs last night to move up to third in the Betway Premiership. But more concerning, it's the Brazilians' fourth draw in 7 games of the new season.
If you are really fair to the people that work in Mamelodi Sundowns, to the coaching staff, to the technical department, you understand that the team that played the World Cup is not the same team that's playing now. Because the impact of the players that were absent is so big in the team that we need to rebuild. And rebuild is done in the moment with players that some of them are still young. And we are rebuilding over that. And we are happy to do it and pleased. And we're going to arrive where we want to arrive because we know which direction we are going.
The Proteas have landed in the UK ahead of their short ball series against the English, which begins on Tuesday with the first of 3 ODIs. Batting coach Ashwell Prince says the games are an opportunity for Tony de Zorzi to cement a starting berth, having struggled to impress against Australia.
Tony is kind of one of those who are on the fringes, and he probably will be a little bit disappointed with himself in the last series because there was an opportunity in both the matches that he played to kick on and do something really significant. He played nicely, and in the next game played nicely again. So as I say, he probably will feel a little bit disappointed that he didn't kick on and make one of them into a much bigger score, maybe even 100.
And 4-time Tour de France winner Chris Froome has been airlifted to hospital after sustaining multiple injuries in a crash in southern France. Froome's team described the crash as serious, adding that he was in a stable condition after breaking 5 ribs and suffering a collapsed lung, along with a lumbar vertebra fracture. He'll have surgery on his back on Thursday. Tolagile Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
At 20 minutes to 5, this EWN Traffic is brought to you by the Mpumalanga Tourism and Parks Agency. Mpumalanga, the place of the rising sun. Karabo, we were focusing on Midrand, but Sandton's not great at the moment.
Yeah, leaving Sandton at this stage, heading towards Midrand. You can expect more than a 20-minute delay on the M1 northbound. That's from Ethel Oaklands all the way to the Butlu interchange. It looks like it's due to that earlier accident on the M1 southbound. That was causing delays in both directions. We still have delays in the Midrand area due to that accident scene. This is bumper-to-bumper traffic on the N1 south from New Road all the way to the Butlu interchange. Sunning Hill traffic sluggish on Witkoppen Road between Rivonia Road and Maxwell Drive. In Devland, roadwork still slowing down traffic on the Golden Highway between the N1 and Union Avenue, while in Germiston, traveling towards Bedfordview, there's slow-moving traffic N3 northbound between the Ilans interchange and Van Buren. Still in Ekurhuleni, traffic pressure in Benoni, that's leaving Brakpan on Rangeview Road between Dube and Tom Jones. And finally in Pretoria North, expect some delays on Paul Kruger. This is from Eskiam Pahlele to Rachel De Beer. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Explore the wonders of Mpumalanga. Discover the ultimate wildlife experience that brings you closer to nature. Get your adrenaline rush with endless adventure activities. Explore breathtaking 4x4 routes or hike the Blader River Canyon, the third largest in the world. Unwind with spectacular landscapes and majestic waterfalls. Make Mpumalanga your destination of choice. Mpumalanga, embrace the unknown, live the adventure. This message is brought to you by the Mpumalanga Tourism and Parks Agency. Mpumalanga, the place of the rising sun. Visit mpumalanga.com for more information.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Now, I have to say I'm not a huge tennis fan, and I'm certainly not a major expert on the sport, although I have followed it quite closely in different eras. Lots of exciting players. There's an Alcaraz, Sinner, sort of Djokovic thing going on, but it does make me think back on what I feel were perhaps more compelling tennis rivalries of the past. Federer, Nadal, Djokovic comes to mind, with Murray perhaps something of an extra in that particular drama, although you can only imagine what he might have achieved if at least one of those players wasn't around. But be that as it may, great sporting rivalries that you really, really miss. And that might be individual clashes, those are easier to focus, but it could be team sport as well. For me, at least, having been a football writer and then a commentator in the 80s and 90s, there was an intensity about Chiefs and Pirates that I somehow don't feel anymore, as they became perhaps more friendly than a good rivalry should sustain. But over to you, sporting rivalries that you really miss. I've suggested two. Tolakele?
It involves three people.
Yes.
Arsene Wenger, Jose Mourinho, Sir Alex Ferguson.
Oh, yes.
You know what? Even a special shout out to Rafael Benitez. Because
Yes.
for that time that he was at Liverpool, and then he had that one press conference where he read a statement about like how Manchester United are benefiting from referee decisions. And then Liverpool were this close to winning the league. And then after that, they started collapsing and they didn't win the league. But those were the fun days. I still remember when Jose and Arsene Wenger were pushing each other at Stamford Bridge. I feel like managers don't hate each other as much as they used to. Now everybody's like, oh, he's great. No, fight on the sidelines and then they'll fight on the pitch.
So you raise a really interesting point. Is a degree of hatred, and we can put it in inverted commas, we can do it with a very small h, but it is what it is.
Yes.
Like deep animosity. Do you think that's the key to all great rivalries?
You just need to just jab your opponents a little bit. I remember when Jose called Arsene Wenger specialist in failure.
Yes.
And then and he was such a calm man, and you could just see him like all of a sudden have to change his character. But I think that also it's something that the fans can get behind, where you're not going to insult our manager. Yes, we may be bad, but we're behind this team no matter the results.
Great sporting rivalries. Kabazela, anything you miss?
Yeah, so I take us back to Arsenal and Manchester United rivalries, but in particular the two players from each teams. Keane versus Vieira.
Yes.
Oh, I sometimes go back onto YouTube and just watch some of the highlights and some of those rivalry clips that people have put together. It was you could actually, I get goosies just thinking about it sometimes. But for me, it was top class. I mean, some of the video stuff when they were in the tunnels, lining up, and you could see there was that hatred, without the hectic violence with fans and all that.
Yes.
But for me, that stands out.
Great sporting rivalries. Karabo Chale. Nostalgia, please.
Yeah, you were 100%, John. Mid-90s, late 90s, Pirates and Chiefs, the rivalry was intense. Just to break it down, between Jerry Skosana, Legs of Thunder, and Brian Baloyi, Spider-Man. I mean, we looked forward to that. Who's going to score? Is he going to get a clean sheet? Is he going to sneak it in somehow? So it was just concentrated between them two. So, yeah, we don't have it. It doesn't hit home like that, the Soweto Derby.
So, give us your great sporting rivalries, the ones that you really miss. I'll throw out one more. Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hitman Hearns, and Marvin Hagler, and all the fights between them. And amongst them, obviously, only two in the ring at a time. That was a special era as well. Send us yours, please, on 011 883 0702.
The Midday Report.
Weekdays,
12 to 1.
The whole world is talking about it. They're talking about the love story. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are engaged. Why are we all so in our feelings about the fact that Taylor and Travis are engaged? I think this is a pretty solid relationship.
But I'm happy to see her also happy. You can just see that, just genuinely happy. She seems like a level-headed girl. I'm rooting for her, honestly.
Buthelezi Buthelezi, entertainment commentator.
The Midday Report
with Mandy Wiener.
12 to 1 on 702.
702.
Looking for a safe, stylish way to stay in the home you love? Lifter's premium European designed home lifts are the perfect solution. With over 500 installations across South Africa, Lifter makes everyday living easier, safer and more comfortable with no costly renovations. Stay independent and future-proof your home today. Call Lifter on 080 73 73 737 or visit lifter.co.za. Lifter, your home, your lift, your freedom.
Medical aid plans, they're normally like this.
So, you'll need to take this form and this. So don't forget this too. Okay, wait. Don't forget this one. Wait. Okay, done. My back! Sorry, sir. That's gonna have to come out of your savings.
At Bonitas, we make our plans simple, so they're easy to understand. We also offer a benefit booster and a range of other benefits that don't come off your savings. Visit bonitas.co.za when you need us. Bonitas, medical aid for South Africa. T's and C's apply.
Tip your way to glory in the Hollywood Bets Punters Challenge, the free-to-play horse racing game with daily cash giveaways and massive jackpot prizes. Pick all the winners on the race card and you could win 100,000 Rand. Bet 50 Rand or more on your selections using the Bet Slip feature and you could walk away with 1 million Rand. Visit punterschallenge.hollywoodbets.net today and tip your way to the top.
T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008.
John Perlman
on 702.
3 to 6 p.m.
Okay, it's time for what we call Your House, Your Home. It's the time in which we look at various aspects of the place where you live. It might be decoration, it might be the garden, it might be DIY, and it often deals with legal issues. Now, one of the questions that has come up when people buy into estates, gated communities, and so on is, where did all those other costs come from? Fees and duties have been flagged by legal experts at Cliff Decker Hofmeyr, saying that these are things that home buyers often overlook. So what are these particular charges and how do you deal with it? Marina Konstas is the director at BBM Attorneys, our regular guest on all these kinds of matters in regard to collective living. Ms. Konstas, welcome and thanks very much for giving us your time. Is everything made absolutely clear when people move into shared living spaces like the ones under discussion? Or do you think there's an argument that, in fact, a higher level of transparency is required?
Thank you, John. Yes, I agree with your latter part of your statement. I think that there should be more transparency. People buy into, particularly our sectional title complexes, with the view that they're buying a home. They might have to pay a levy. They're not quite sure what that levy is. Possibly they haven't even been made aware of the levy, and those are my worst cases that I've had, where people are not made aware of what they're paying. They're not aware that rates and taxes will be separately paid, and they're unsure about special levies and all those types of things. So yes, clarity is needed, and our estate agents play a large role in educating buyers who want to pursue community scheme lifestyle.
When you say estate agents play a role, is implicit in what you're saying to some degree, Marina, that estate agents, in their keenness to do a transaction, and I don't fault them for that, are at best a little bit vague about what some of the costs might be?
Yes, I mean, I've been involved in training estate agents around the country, and I really always get the impression that, the estate agents are keen to push the deal, they're keen for the commission, but we always say that the integrity in being an estate agent, specifically specializing in community schemes, is in understanding sectional title legislation and certainly homeowners association rules through the Companies Act. And the agents who are proficient and who are incredibly professional are those agents who understand exactly. They even have a sectional title plan in the offices of all the estates that they sell in. So they know exactly what is involved. They even reach out to trustees. They understand the levy situation in each building that they deal with. And those are the agents that one wants to deal with.
So I've got something from one of our listeners, Luke, Marina. Perhaps you can help with this. He says, we're being charged the so-called daily tariff, he puts that in quotes, on our electricity purchases. Even if I'm not home for over a month, I would come back and buy electricity and be shocked by utility charges that are apparently debt accumulated. I'm renting and electricity and water is prepaid. And then the question, is it legal for central development to impose charges which are not part of the lease agreement?
Yeah, well, that's a question that we're getting asked quite a lot lately about prepaid electricity. I think the one thing to understand about prepaid electricity is that there's always going to be a little bit more expensive than your normal electricity because of the tariffs and because of the amounts that can be charged over and above that. But certainly has to be reasonable, and anything that sounds unreasonable, or if anybody's sort of putting charges on top of that, like if a managing agent is sort of trying to make too much out of that, then that needs to be looked at quite carefully. But it's definitely it will be more, and I know that a lot of people complain about that, particularly in our complexes in Sandton.
Yes.
We've had a lot of complaints around that. So it's better to check, and you can check because you can ask the owner to get all the records of the books of accounting record from the managing agent to show you exactly what tariff is being used and how these things are being calculated.
So here's another one which says we have a problem with our HOA, who is also the estate agent and also the developer. He holds us to ransom and we get fined if we speak up. A chair at CSOS has a property there and always sides with the developer as he is part of the HOA too. I don't expect you obviously to know the ins and outs of that because I'm giving you the bare details that I've got. But can you be fined for arguing, for disagreeing with the homeowners association? Surely you can only be fined for things that are set out in the rules.
Yes, in the memorandum of incorporation and the annexures, which would be the rules, you are entitled to, as the directors, place fines in those documents, but the fines have to be reasonable. They should be allocated each year, and your homeowner should agree on what the fines are. And there has to be a right to be heard clause in the fines clause in the documentation. So you can't just impose a fine of 1,000 Rand for speeding or 500 Rand for whatever. It's got to be that person is allowed an audience with the directors or with, some outside party before a fine is imposed. There's got to be the right to be heard. So, yeah, no, certainly not. And I can tell you that a lot of people in power in our community schemes use the fines thing as sort of a real whip.
Yes.
And very often the clause is not even legally enforceable in the rules or in the HOA MOI documents.
And just finally, do we need legislative change or do we just need better practices?
I think our legislation is good, John. If you look at
Yes.
our legislation compared to New South Wales, for example, it's easier to understand, it's streamlined. No, legislation is good. It's definitely in the education, enforcement, and particularly the education of our trustees and our estate agents, because they're really at the coalface of this.
Thank you very much, Marina Constas, joining us on 702 Drive. This has been Your House, Your Home, our regular feature that looks at issues around the place where you live. It's now 3 minutes to 5.
702 Afternoons.
With Relebohile Maboja, 1 to 3 p.m.
What are some of the things that we need to be looking at when we are choosing the appropriate medical aid plan?
From our experience, what we have found is that, people do not understand their medical aid well enough and sometimes make these decisions purely based on the grudge purchase, based on their affordability. But in answering your question, key for us in terms of the advice or guidance that we can give to the consumer is really understand what is your day-to-day healthcare needs, understand in terms of that of your own, in terms of how frequently do you actually seek healthcare requirements, and understanding in terms of what you're paying for.
Lee Calicopen, Principal Officer of Benita's Medical Fund.
702 Afternoons.
With Relebohile Maboja.
Let's walk the talk.
At the heart of global conversations shaping our future, Africa's voice is more important than ever. As proud lead sponsor of the B20, the Standard Bank Group is honored to showcase the continent's growth, partnerships, and potential on the world stage. Because driving Africa's growth isn't just our ambition, it's our purpose. Tune in every Monday from 3 p.m. for the Standard Bank B20 In Brief for key insights and updates around the B20. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 1 liter 6-pack Spar Long Life, full cream, low fat or fat-free milk, excluding lactose free, for $89.99 with Spar Rewards, or 900 gram original Bacoma Wheat Bix for $49.99. Save 15 Rand with Spar Rewards. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million Rand in instant cash. Prices valid until 7 September 2025, while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
The Festival of Motoring, powered by Westbank, brings the spirit of Ubuntu to the Kyalami Grand Prix circuit from the 29th to the 31st of August. Experience thrilling track drives, 4x4 adventures, drifting, supercar hot laps, and F1 demos. Get your tickets on Howler and use the promo code RADIO for a special discount. The Festival of Motoring, the power of new.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive, still to come on the show after 5 o'clock. We are going to be taking a closer look at that Jagersfontein dam tragedy 3 years down the line. What kind of justice has there been for families affected? What kind of restitution has there been to a community that suffered severe loss and is still facing the consequences in terms of, for example, the pollution of land that they were using for agricultural purposes? We'll talk about that with Hassan Logat, who is convener at the CSO's Tailings Working Group. And the name captures the fact that there are other tailings dams that might in future weeks, months and years pose some kind of risk to communities in our country. All of that and more on 702 Drive. It's 5 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Political killings dockets to be returned to the relevant task team, and the NPA to argue for a heavy sentence for a killer teacher. Good afternoon, I'm Bali Dlamini. National Police have confirmed that the dockets which KZN Police Commissioner Ntanta Mkhwanazi claims were taken away irregularly are being returned. During an explosive press briefing last month, Mkhwanazi claimed that the dockets which were under investigation were taken away from the Political Killings Task Team. He alleges this was done by Deputy Commissioner for Crime Detection, Shadrack Sibia. The claims led to Sibia being suspended pending the outcomes of the Commission of Inquiry to be chaired by retired Justice Mbuyiseni Madlanga. Khomotso Modise reports.
According to General Ntanta Mkhwanazi, 121 dockets were taken away from the KZN Political Killings Task Team due to interference by Police Minister Senzo Mchunu and Deputy Commissioner for Crime Detection, Shadrack Sibia. Police have now confirmed that the dockets are currently being returned to the task team. Spokesperson Atlenda Mate.
We can confirm that the National Commissioner has signed off that the dockets be returned to KwaZulu-Natal. KwaZulu-Natal detectives are in Gauteng. They're at the head office in Pretoria to fetch the docket.
Mate says the dockets are being subjected to final inspection before being returned to KZN. The return of the dockets means the task team will be able to continue with its probe and could result in more prosecutions. The KZN Political Killings Task Team has been at the fore of investigations into high-profile cases such as the murders of DJ Sambodi and Vintos, which resulted in the arrest of Santon businessman Katiso K.T. Molefe. Khomotso Modise, Eyewitness News.
The National Prosecuting Authority says it will be arguing for a maximum sentence for self-confessed killer Amberly Hughes. Today, the 25-year-old was found guilty of the murder and rape of 4-year-old Nada Jane Chalita, who was her ex-boyfriend's child. Chalita's body was found in a bathtub filled with cold water in 2023, Ndogozo Kumalo reports.
2 months ago, Amberly Hughes' judgment was meant to be handed down by the High Court, but due to Hughes' last-minute change in legal representation, the case was postponed. With the guilty judgment handed to the former preschool teacher today, Nada Jane Chalita's family have shared that they have mixed emotions about how things have unfolded. Gauteng NPA spokesperson Phindi Mjonondwane says she hopes that the outcome gives the family the much-needed solace.
So we hope that the father will also find closure now that we've reached the stage, and going forward as the NPA we will be arguing for a sentence that will send a message that this type of behavior cannot be tolerated.
She adds that the NPA will be arguing for the maximum sentence to be handed down. Ndogozo Kumalo, Eyewitness News.
We shift our focus to this now. Taxi commuters in parts of Katlehong and Germiston in Ekurhuleni have been left stranded as Santaco announces a halt in operations today. That decision comes amid growing tensions over vehicles that have been impounded, particularly the 10-seater baby buses. Operators argue they are being targeted for not having licenses that government is no longer issuing, forcing them to pay fines of up to 5,000 rand each time their vehicles are seized. Santaco says the law is being enforced selectively, claiming 7-seater vehicles used for e-hailing and informal transport are allowed to operate freely without similar harassment. Santaco Ekurhuleni Secretary Zweli Mnisi.
This unequal treatment by law enforcement places a disproportionate burden on the taxi industry. The halting of taxi operations is a necessary measure to prevent the continued victimization and financial exploitation of our members.
Let's stay with taxi-related matters. The Western Cape Mobility Department has approached the courts to interdict taxi associations CATA and CODETA amid escalating taxi violence. The long-standing dispute over a route from Fuleni and Khayelitsha to Somerset West has claimed the lives of 5 people so far. 9 other people were injured in shootings at taxi ranks in Philippi East and Khayelitsha this week. Ntutuzelo Nene has more.
The Western Cape Mobility Department wants the High Court to compel CATA and CODETA to stop the recent deadly shootings in Cape Town. down. Speaking in the provincial legislature today, Mobility MEC Isaac Seleku says if the shootings don't stop, they'll be forced to shut down affected routes.
Should closures be necessary, Somlomo, a contingency transport plan is in place to protect commuters and to ensure no worker, learner or resident is left stranded.
He adds that government will not tolerate the use of violence to settle disputes. Ndutuzelo Nene, Eyewitness News.
And family, friends, colleagues, as well as government representatives continue to trickle in to the family home of late EWN Associate Politics Editor Cidi Madia. The 42-year-old died in a Johannesburg hospital yesterday following a short illness. Hundreds of tributes have been pouring in since the news of her passing, including from President Cyril Ramaphosa, who described her as a remarkable citizen and a thought leader. This afternoon, mourners gathered at Madia's home have remembered her not only as a respected journalist but as a daughter of the Germiston community with a great impact. Family spokesperson Matlachana.
We know that this is a shared loss because Cidi loved what she did and she loved her colleagues and she extended of herself to her colleagues.
Gold is trading at $3,403.91 an ounce. The rand is at 17.67 to the dollar, 23.84 to the pound, 20.60 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $68.05 a barrel.
Leaving Sandton heading towards Midrand, expect about a 20-minute delay. M1 north from Ethel Oaklands all the way to the Patloo interchange. Also in Midrand traveling towards Sandton, we still have bumper-to-bumper traffic on the M1 southbound from New Road all the way to the Patloo interchange due to an earlier accident. And in the Germiston area, traffic sluggish N3 northbound between the Ilands interchange and Van Buren.
In your sport, Mbegezeli Mbogazi named in Bafana squad for the FIFA World Cup qualifiers against Lesotho and Nigeria. Ashwell Prince calls for improved batting performance from the Proteas in their ODI series against England. And India's 2030 Commonwealth Games bid gets cabinet approval.
In your weather, a fine Friday in store for Gauteng tomorrow. Johannesburg dropping to overnight lows of 14 degrees, peaking at 27. Pretoria 15 and 29, and Vereniging 14 and 28 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. National Police have now confirmed that the dockets, which KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi claims were taken away irregularly, are being returned to the Political Killings Task Team.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
7:02.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
On 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
7:02 Drive. Good to have you with us for the final hour of the show on this final Thursday of August. The year continues to pick up speed. Certainly that's the way it seems to me. Good to have you with us. We are going in a moment to talk about the story that was leading Mbali Dlamini's bulletin just a moment ago. Those dockets, 121 of them taken away from the KZN political task team investigating the killing of people who were either councillors or connected to politics in some other way. They're all going back again. It is murky water. And this, of course, in advance of an inquiry, the Madlanga Commission, that was meant to start in a couple of days' time, but that isn't getting underway either. So how do we make sense of all of this? Kumotso Modise, our EWN colleague, is watching that story closely. She's with us shortly. And then other issues of justice, but going back much further back, the Jagersfontein tailings dam wall collapse, which caused such devastation for the people who lived nearby. It's 3 years on. What has been done to offer them some kind of restitution? We'll talk about that at 20 minutes past 5.
EWN Traffic.
But first, let's make sure that you have what you need to know to get home safely. This Eyewitness News Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance in partnership with 702. Karabo Chale.
Well, at this stage, John, we still have those huge delays in the Sandton area heading towards Midrand. Expect about a 20-minute delay. M1 northbound from Ethel Oaklands all the way to the Batlu interchange. Also in Midrand, traveling into Sandton, bumper-to-bumper traffic on the N1 south from New Road to the Batlu interchange due to an earlier accident. Sunning Hill traffic remains sluggish on Witkoppen Road between Rivonia Road and Maxwell Drive, while in Devland we have those roadworks slowing down traffic on the Golden Highway between the N1 and Union Avenue. There's also slow-moving traffic in the Germiston area traveling towards Bedford View. That's the N3 northbound from the Ilans interchange to Van Buren. Still in Ekurhuleni, Benoni, traffic pressure on Rangeview Road. That's leaving Brakpan, heading into Benoni between Dube and Tom Jones. And finally in Pretoria North, expect some delays on Mastiff, Paul Kruger Road. This is from Fred Nicholson all the way to Rahel De Beer. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Clever late excuse number 82. You had to turn back home because you forgot to lock the door. Fortunately, with the OUTsurance pointsmen on the roads, you no longer have to come up with creative excuses for being late. The OUTsurance pointsmen, easing traffic congestion and getting you there quickly and safely since 2005. OUTsurance really means it when they say you always get something out, in proud partnership with 702. Show them some love online using #PointsmenLove. OUTsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
The Midday Report.
Weekdays,
12 to 1.
Cidi was a regular stand-in. She often hosted this show, and she did such a stellar job because I always felt like if Cidi was on the show, it was a safe pair of hands. Cidi set the agenda. She always had the inside track. And Cidi, I'm so glad that you got to visit the White House, that you so patriotically represented your country, and that you got to live your best life and really, really shine. May your memory be a blessing.
The Midday Report
with Mandy Wiener.
12 to 1 on 702.
702.
The 12th edition of the DSTV Delicious International Food and Music Festival, powered by Lotto Star, is here. Experience unbeatable vibes this heritage weekend at the Kyalami Grand Prix Circuit on the 20th and 21st of September. On Saturday 20, catch Don Toliver, Questa, Inkabi Zizwe and more. Then on Sunday 21, don't miss the iconic Lauryn Hill on her 25th anniversary tour with special guests Wycliffe Jean, YG Marley and Zion Marley, with Lira, Mandisi Janchis and Zoe Modicha also performing on the Sunday. Tickets at Ticketmaster. The DSTV Delicious International Food and Music Festival, powered by Lotto Star and proudly supported by 702.
For over 200,000 businesses, Yoko has been there, backing the brave, simplifying payments with our legendary Little Blue Card Machine. We've built a legacy of making businesses run smarter. Now, meet the next generation of smart. Yoko Counter. It's the smartest till you'll ever own. Your all-in-one hub for seamless payments, crystal clear recons, effortless stock control, and efficient staff management. Yoko Counter. Level up at yoko.com.
Dis-Chem's Beauty Fair is here. It's time to treat yourself at your fabulous fragrance destination. Big date coming up? Find a fragrance that makes it unforgettable. Crushing it in the boardroom. Make an impression before you even speak. From fresh and floral to bold and unforgettable, get your perfect fragrance match at Dis-Chem's Beauty Fair. Don't miss out. Deals end 14 September.
My guy, tell me how date night was.
Bro, I'm telling you, my rival was too clean. That sporty exterior, the 1.5 turbo engine, just turns heads.
But what about date night?
Yeah, it was chilled. But the Jolly On Pro, it's on another level, bro.
Sometimes the drive is the best part. The Haval Jolly On Pro from only $4,299 per month. Visit gwm.co.za for T's and C's. GWM. Go with more. Brought to you by GWM Finance, a division of West Bank, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
Every day, most of us spend an hour planning, prepping, and stressing over what's for dinner. That's around 29,200 hours of your life spent running from grocery store, the kitchen, to the fridge, to the stove. Why not spend that time running for yourself or towards something you love doing. And let You Cook handle dinner, delivered, prepped, and ready to cook. So choose You Cook and take back some me time. Visit youcook.co.za to find out how.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Well, in the complicated and murky world of policing in South Africa, we now have another development. I need scarcely remind you of the allegations made by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Then there was the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, which was meant to get off the ground in terms of public hearings, which is not going to get off the ground as planned on the scheduled date in terms of public hearings. And now we have a further development where the National Police Commissioner, General Fani Masemola, has made an announcement in regard to dockets investigating killings related to politics in KZN. What is going on, and crucially, what is the implications? What are the implications of the announcement? To talk about this, we're joined now by our EWN colleague, Khomotso Modise. Khomotso, very good afternoon to you. Two big announcements made by the Commissioner. Let's deal with the first, all those dockets, I think 121 of them, going back to KZN. What's this all about? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, John. Yes, that's right. You may remember that during that explosive press briefing by General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, he had announced that the dockets were snatched away from the Political Killings Task Team by crime detection boss Shadrack Sibiya, as well as the Minister Senzo Mchunu. And he claimed that that was part of the intervention, really, or the interference, I should say, by the police minister as well as Sibiya. And so today we heard the National Police Commissioner Fani Masemola announcing that those dockets are being returned to the KZN Political Killings Task Team. They're being taken to KZN now as we speak. In fact, we heard from Athlenda Madia a short while ago that detectives are currently at the Pretoria head offices, the police's head offices, and the dockets are being subjected to inspection before being taken back. Now, these are dockets that are investigating a wide range of cases, including murder, attempted murder, and interrogation. And so those dockets being taken back, John, will mean that the task team will continue with its probe and its investigation, but also we're likely to see more investigations and we're likely to see prosecution also in the future. I think it's interesting to say and to hear Fani Masemola, who's been speaking at the Interpol event, that he's not expecting prosecutions anytime soon just because of the complex nature of the crimes that are being investigated by this task team in those dockets. But I do think that it's a step in the right direction, that the dockets are now no longer lying on a desk somewhere, with crime detection, and they're actually being worked on. And I think it's important, John, because this is the same task team, you may remember, that's investigated, and their investigations have resulted in the arrest of Akatiso KT Molefe, linking him to the murders of DJ Somebody and DJ Vintos. It's the same Political Killings Task Team that's resulted, or the investigations resulted in the arrest of Vusmuzi Matlachana. And so, there is a sense from the National Police Commissioner Fani Masemola that the resumption of the investigations through these dockets will result in prosecution ultimately.
And briefly, if you can, Khomotso Modise, all of this, of course, in the absolute absence of any explanation as to why the investigations were sidelined in the first place. But later for that, Gauteng is also getting a similar investigative process for political killings in this province.
That's right, yeah. We also heard that announcement from General Masemola, and he's basically been confirming what's been said, repeatedly, that Gauteng does need more muscle in terms of investigations. I mean, you remember that the reason why the KZN Political Killings Task Team was brought into the province to investigate what you wouldn't imagine were just political cases. I mean, they were investigating, according to Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, they were investigating drug-related matters, drug syndicates.
Yes.
It's clear that in Gauteng there is a need to bolster up, the muscle to investigate certain crimes. And so he is saying that in the next 4 weeks, Dr. John, we're going to be seeing a Gauteng Political Killings Task Team.
Okay, well, important developments. We'll follow them closely. Thank you. Khomotso Modise with those updates from EWN, 5:20.
Drive home with John Perlman
on 702.
Thanks.
Let's walk the talk.
Right, let's focus on this now. It's 3 years since the collapse of a tailings dam absolutely changed profoundly for the worse the situation of people living in the area of Jagersfontein. The collapse of that dam wall claimed lives, damaged property, ruined houses, and created ecological problems for people who were, at least to some degree, relying on agriculture in the area. So 3 years on, what do we have by way of justice or restitution? We'll talk about that in just a moment with Hassan Logat, who's an activist working on that issue.
Aubrey Masango.
Weekday evenings,
8 to midnight.
Poverty is a very violent thing. Poverty is violent, takes away dignity, takes away rational thinking. And sometimes we get ourselves in a position where we try to combat, to fight against the effects of poverty and its violence by doing things that further violate us, making decisions that are irrational, that put us into further debt, into further indignity. So the cycle goes on and on. And that is a very, 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 very powerful observation. What will people say? But what are they?
Aubrey Masango.
8 to midnight on 702.
702.
When service delivery fails, hope doesn't have to. Fix Local helps you report issues, escalate when you're ignored, and as a last resort, fix them yourself, safely and legally. Fix Local is more than a platform. It's a way for communities to stand up, speak out, and work with or hold local government accountable. Visit fixlocal.org.za to report burst pipes, broken streetlights, or other service delivery issues in your neighborhood. Also, lots of tips to help you organize in your community for action. 702 is proud to support Fix Local. Let's walk the talk and fix what's ours.
Looking for the perfect place to book your next local holiday? Lekker has you covered with over 30,000 stays across South Africa. From luxury hotels, resorts and lodges to cozy self-catering homes, B&Bs and guest houses, Lekker has something for every taste and budget. Whether it's a quick getaway or an extended holiday, visit Lekker today and easily book your dream getaway on South Africa's leading accommodation app.
When you're uploading massive files, does it really matter what your internet's download speed is? With business class internet, you get a connection that's as fast going up as it is down. Your company deserves business class internet because just reboot the router isn't a business strategy. Find reliability at vodacombusiness.co.za. Together, let's build the extraordinary. Further together, Vodacom Business.
The Festival of Motoring, powered by Westbank, brings the spirit of Ubuntu to the Kyalami Grand Prix circuit from the 29th to the 31st of August. Experience thrilling track drives, 4x4 adventures, drifting, supercar hot laps, and F1 demos. Get your tickets on Howler and use the promo code RADIO for a special discount. The Festival of Motoring, the power of new.
.702 was live from the AXA International Indaba Conference Center as Airports Company South Africa announced their 2024-2025 annual financial results.
It's a very exciting day to announce the results for AXA with their sterling performance. What makes it so significant is that it creates a buffer, almost like a balance between aeronautical revenue, which is aviation revenue. It mitigates the risk. So you diversify revenue so that you don't have over-reliance on just one stream of income. That's a significant part of it. And it has been growing significantly, like almost balanced 50-50 with the aviation revenue in the past few years.
Airports Company South Africa is proud to be sustaining the pulse of SA's economy and global connectivity. Visit airports.co.za for more info. 702. Let's walk the talk.
John Perlman
on 702.
3 to 6 p.m.
Right, let's pick up that story on the Jagersfontein community. 3 years ago, tragedy struck. What's been done by way of justice and restitution? My guest, Hassan Logat, is somebody who's been working for many years with the Benchmarks Foundation. They work in mining affected communities and is the convener of the civil society organization Tailings Working Group. And they were formed, obviously, not just with this tragedy in mind, but also looking at the security and integrity of other similar dams in other parts of the country, because they are widespread. Mr. Logat, welcome, and thanks very much for your time. Well, I'll split the two, justice and restitution. In terms of holding people responsible for what happened at Jagersfontein, what kind of progress has been made there? Good afternoon to you.
Afternoon, John. John, this is a long road. I mean, we were excited the other night to learn that some people are being charged eventually. I've been begging at this door for 2-3 years saying, where's the report? I mean, when you look at a massive disaster in 2019 in Brumadinho, where 270 people got killed, two of the women were pregnant, and they brought about a result, more or less what was wrong and how to fix it within 6 months.
Yes.
Appointing a judicial inquiry. Now, clearly, we have problems there. The mines seem to have been compromised by state capture issues and poor regulation. There's also, it exposed the legal gaps that we had. You remember when this disaster took place, one of the unfortunate comments our minister made was to say, hey, this is not really our baby. You know, it is Department of Water and Sanitation's one.
Right.
And he referred quite rightly to a case that basically regards these mine dumps as not being part of the earth, not part of the mine. It was like something else. It was movable property because they were looking at remining there. That's quite complex. But what the community wants to do is to have a commemorative meeting on the 11th September and to basically bring together the people that their families, those who got killed, as well as those who lost property. And there's about 164 homes were deeply affected, washed away partially or completely. 250 families were directly affected. And we're working with a range of people, Gift of the Givers and others, to have this commemorative event in the area. Now, you know, John, you've raised the issue about this disaster. This is a tailings dam is a permanent feature, a permanent structure. It's man-made. It's a disaster waiting to happen. With excessive rains, the vagaries of the climate, etc., these disasters are about to happen. We need to make sure that people are involved from the start, not just to say to them, Gijima, here's the thing coming. It's too late by that time.
So, I mean, you're part of a tailings working group. So obviously, I would assume from the title, this is looking beyond Jagersfontein, but also trying to learn from what happened there. In general, do you get any sense of movement around taking steps now of the kind of preventive nature that you've just highlighted?
John, I must say, sadly, it is slow. But, you know, I used to throw stones at the Human Rights Commission until I realized that they're underfunded. You know, you can throw how much you want. This Chapter 9 bodies are under-resourced. And we decided another approach, how to work with them. So much so, on the 10th of this month, they'll be having a symposium convened by the Human Rights Commission in Jagersfontein to talk about bringing in water affairs, bringing in mining, bringing in all the segments. Because what you find with mining law, with the law around tailings, the current bill before you is trying to fix it. You find it is shared across many departments, water affairs, environmental affairs, and a bit also for mining. Now mining is trying to arrest that. But what we want is coordination at a higher level, not to make mining über alles. That means environment and other affairs to be thrown out. We really want tougher regulation. So there will be a seminar on the 10th, the day before the commemoration. And this is just a testimony for our own humility. We used to throw stones and we realized, you know, it's better to try and see how we can go longer. So it's a process step, not a victory. And even the charging of these people is going to be adjourned. Let me tell you that. It's probably going to be another year before a case comes on. But the saddest thing, John, we learned is that the people who died, there was no inquest for them. No inquest. And it's 3 years down the line.
Thank you so much. Hassan Logat, convener at the civil society organization's Tailings Working Group. Some reflections on Jagersfontein, 3 years on, 29 minutes past 5.
EWN Business.
Stephen Curtis, a very good afternoon to you once again.
Afternoon, John. The JSE All Share down 0.14% at the close to 101,859 points. Financials down Financials up 0.92, Industrials down 0.11, and then Resources down 1.5%, despite the fact that the gold price has gone over $3,400 again. Quite sort of busy on the market. So Harmony Gold, they're down 10%. Now, they actually declared a record dividend. They declared a record dividend. The average gold price was up 27% during the period. But one of the reasons I think this has happened is that their costs were so much higher. They're up 17%, and electricity is a big part of that. And John, you were speaking to Nersa an hour ago. They got their sums wrong again. And that means Eskom will be able to increase its power prices by a bit more. That, I think, is going to have a big impact on the economy. In fact, we'll speak to Zwelinzima Vavi, among others, including Chris Yelland, about that on the Money Show this evening. At the same time, the impact of electricity affecting Rainbow Chicken the other way. So because of less load shedding, Rainbow Chicken were able to push their headline earnings per share up by over 200%. Also, of course, they're in the middle of a big turnaround strategy. I must just say that some of the other miners were down too. So Tongela was down 3%. Gold Fields is down 2.73%. Blue Label Telecom are down nearly 7%. The results yesterday are quite complicated, but it's really to do with how they rate Cell C, which is due to sort of be unbundled fairly soon. So it's a little bit messy, and I think that share price has also been very high recently, and I think it's just giving up all of those gains that we've seen, well, a lot of them over the last couple of days. Also, Sibanye-Stillwater posting a loss of over 3.5 billion rand in the 6 months to the end of June. Problems with their American operations, also a big change to the American tax credit system that affects the value of their platinum group metal operations in the United States. Implats then also up 2.26%. CEO Nico Muller saying in their results presentation today, and we'll ask him more about it, that they do expect platinum prices to be broadly supportive for perhaps the next 18 months. In the US, a little bit of a slow start. The Nasdaq did open slightly higher after Nvidia's update yesterday. The Dow Jones is now down by 0.21%. The Nasdaq is up 0.27%, and the S&P 500 is flat at the moment. The gold price, John, very high, $3,411.35 an ounce. Platinum, $1,347.61. Brent crude, $67.11. The rand to the dollar, 17.69. To the euro, 20.64. To the British pound, 23.90. On the Money Show this evening, we'll be obviously looking at the platinum price. We'll focus to an extent on Nersa getting its sums wrong and losing to Eskom again. Also this evening, we buy cars on whether people are actually going to their site to buy a Corolla or to just look at a Ferrari. And then on Investment School this evening, we'll be looking at whether you should look at the unlisted space. A lot more growth in the unlisted space, but more risk as well. And also, which cell phone network has the best voice quality? That to come. Stephen Crotus, EWN Business.
Thanks, Stephen. From the markets to the marketplace of news, here's Mbali Dlamini. Good afternoon.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. Crime has featured prominently at a Western Cape cabinet meeting this week as Cape Town deals with a surge in gang and taxi violence. Cabinet was briefed by Deputy Police Commissioner Bongani Maqashalala on gang violence, extortion and taxi conflict. He emphasized that gang-related violence is receiving urgent attention through continuous deployments and operations in several priority areas. In response, Premier Alan Winde has again expressed deep concern.
And of course, the ongoing extortion at the hands of gangsters, and those who are the most vulnerable in our society are the ones that are harmed the most. The moms and dads who are burying their children, the people caught in crossfire, and it cannot be tolerated at all.
He says police have indicated some successes since April, with hundreds of arrests for murder and the illegal possession of firearms recorded.
We have also agreed that between the city and the province, extra resources from our LEAP officers to help deploy to certain of these areas. We came across other parts that we could probably help with camera systems, with looking at openness of areas for police to get in and out, how we communicate with each other, and most importantly, how we all work together.
Let's stay with crime-related issues in the Western Cape. The annual Khayelitsha Road Race will be going ahead as planned next weekend. There were concerns that race might be cancelled due to taxi-related violence in the area this week. A taxi driver was killed at the Vuyani taxi rank in Khayelitsha on Monday, and 2 others were wounded when 2 armed men opened fire. But race organisers say they've been meeting with law enforcement agencies in Cape Town to ensure the safety of runners and supporters. More than 1,000 runners are expected to take part in the 5 and 10 kilometre races hosted at the Mandela Park Stadium on Sunday, the 7th of September. The annual event, hosted by the Khayelitsha Athletics Club, is aimed at celebrating community spirit. Race director Sipho Klaas says the recent taxi violence is not a threat to the event.
We've got Metro Police on board, we've got the law enforcement, and we've got police that are going to be part of the event, just to ensure security of the runners and the event itself. And also we've got city traffic ensuring that runners are safe on the road.
And the KZN government has officially turned Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi's grave into a provincial heritage site. In honour of his legacy, Buthelezi was the longest-serving Zulu traditional prime minister, having served Zulu kings Bhegu Zulu, Zwelithini and Misizulu. He was also the longest-serving statesman at the time of his passing in 2023. Premier Tami Ntuli says government wants to preserve the prince's contributions.
You know that in his journey to help our country to be free as we are free today, he played a pivotal role. He fought for the traditional leadership. Amakosi, he protected the land of the Zulu nation under Ingonyama Trust Act. He was the first to lead KwaZulu government as the chief minister.
Nduli says they wish that the site can be granted a status of being a national as well as a World Heritage Site for tourism purposes. In your weather, a fine Friday in store for Gauteng tomorrow. Lows of between 14 and 15 degrees and highs of between 27 and 29.
Leaving the Pretoria CBD, there's bumper-to-bumper traffic. This is in the Hermanstad area on Eskiam Pachele. This is between Vormhagen and Paul Kruger. Also in the Pretoria North, expect delays on Mastiff Paul Kruger Road between Fred Nicholson and Rachel de Beer. Germiston traffic sluggish N3 North between the Elands Interchange and Van Buren.
The top story in EWN, crime has featured prominently at a Western Cape cabinet meeting this week as Cape Town deals with a surge in gang and taxi-related violence.
702 afternoons
with Relebohile Maboja, 1 to 3 p.m.
What are some of the things that we need to be looking at when we are choosing the appropriate medical aid plan?
From our experience, what we have found is that, people do not understand their medical aid well enough and sometimes make these decisions purely based on the grudge purchase, based on their affordability. But in answering your question, key for us in terms of the advice or guidance that we can give to the consumer is really understand what is your day-to-day healthcare needs, understand in terms of, that of your own, in terms of how frequently do you actually seek healthcare requirements, and understanding in terms of what you're paying for.
Lee Calicopen, Principal Officer of Benitez Medical Fund.
702 afternoons
with Relebohile Maboja.
Let's walk the talk.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 2 kg Tastic long grain, parboiled, brown or soft absorbing rice assorted for $34.99. Save 10 Rand with Spar Rewards, or 2-liter Spar sunflower or canola oil for $69.99 with Spar Rewards. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million Rand in instant cash. Price is valid until 7 September 2025 while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
Hi everyone, I'm Dean McPherson, the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure. Since I was appointed just over a year ago, we've laid a firm foundation in the department, and after tabling our 7.6 billion Rand budget for growth, we're now turning plans into action. That means that we're moving government departments into our own state-owned buildings to save you billions of rands in rent. We're unlocking public land to build affordable housing, create shelters for victims of gender-based violence, and to boost food production. We're also tackling corruption head-on without fear or favor. And we're giving young South Africans real opportunities through a reformed EPWP program that focuses on skills and long-term jobs. And this is only the beginning. With your support, we're building a capable and professional department that delivers infrastructure, creates jobs, and puts public assets to work for the public good. The best is yet to come because we're building a better country for you, brick by brick.
Breathe in, insurance. Breathe out, pineapple. In, insurance. Breathe out, pineapple. Again. In, insurance. Out, pineapple. Again and again.
Pineapple FSP 48650 is underwritten by Omart Insure Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hi, John and team. Alex here in Bramley. So tell me if I'm wrong, but listen, I think this announcement is a bit premature, about a set of police collecting dockets and driving back with them to KZN and that sort of thing. For goodness sake, couldn't they just take those dockets, seal them, put on a plane, get them to KZN, and then tell them when they're there? Now, someone, somewhere, somehow knows that those dockets are en route, and those policemen might not even get there. This is so crazy. I mean, yeah.
Wow, John. Just touching on boxing right there. If you had to look at Marco Antonio Barrera versus Eric Morales, and then also Riddick Bowe, Evander Holyfield, and then Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank Sr. My gosh, that was something. Roy Jones Jr. and the Executioner. Yeah, amazing times those were. And then Namaja Vidic versus Steven Gerrard. Yeah, that was something. Shivers in Boxburg.
Yeah, thank you for that. We asked you about great sporting rivalries. There's a couple of others shared going back to boxing. J.M. Matlala says Harold Fulbrecht versus Arthur Maisela. Of course, Arthur Maisela, a career tragically ended, the fighting prince being killed in a motorway accident. Matume takes us to wrestling. I have to say, I do not follow wrestling, but he says Undertaker versus Kane. John Cena versus Randy Orton. No, lots of shrugs around the office. Shawn Michaels versus Batista. Those were really big matches. I believe you. I just was not there to witness it. But thank you for that contribution and a great appreciation from Agri, who's in Northwest in the Platinum Belt in Northam, responding to what Karabo Chale said about, well, let me read it. And you know what he said. You make me miss one of the best rivalries. Brian Beloy and Jerry Skosana in the 1990s. Chiefs and Pirates, Agri says that was a humdinger of a rivalry. 18 minutes to 6.
EWN Sport.
Tola Kele, very good afternoon to you. Updates, please.
Thanks so much, John. Well, Hugo Bruce has included teenage defender Mbegezeli Mbogazi in the Bafana Bafana squad that will take on Lesotho and Nigeria in FIFA World Cup qualifiers next month. Mbogazi and Chandra Campbell are two youngsters tipped for success at national level, while they've also been called up for the Under-20 FIFA World Cup, which takes place in October. However, Bruce doesn't expect the Orlando Pirates man to be part of that side that will compete in Chile.
Mbogazi is a standard player now from Pirates. You can't put Mbogazi out of the team because he's too good. And I understand that the coach and the club don't want him to release for World Cup. He's maybe 2 or 3 weeks away in October. I don't know, but maybe Champions League games are starting. Competition. How can you as club release a player like that? It's impossible. So you have to accept that. But it's a pity. Also for the player.
South Africa currently sit comfortably at the top of Group C with 13 points from their 6 matches. That's 5 clear of second place Rwanda. Victory over Lesotho and Nigeria in Bloemfontein will see Bruce and his team strengthen their qualification hopes.
If we go to the World Cup, it will be the first and maybe the last time for all those players. Qualifying for World Cup is extremely difficult. Certainly here in Africa. You have to fight for every game. Don't think that an easy game next Friday against Lesotho. And in the ranking, who is Lesotho? Every game you have to play. And it's difficult, and then you are qualified maybe for World Cup, but then we have to wait 4 years again.
The Proteas have landed in the UK ahead of their short ball series against the English, which begins on Tuesday with the first of 3 ODIs. Their batting coach, Ashwell Prince, has called for a better showing from the top order, who all failed to score a century in the recent 50-over series against Australia.
Maybe a little bit disappointing that nobody went on to score 100, but to be honest, the focus is more making an impact. So we don't necessarily want somebody who's in the 70s to have just 100 in the back of his mind and sort of nursing himself towards that. And sometimes they will go on to get 100, and if they bomb out, that's the way the cookie crumbles.
And India's bid to host the 2030 Commonwealth Games has been approved by the country's federal government. The 2030 Games are proposed to be staged in Ahmedabad, with the lion's share of the events being held at the Narendra Modi Stadium. The Commonwealth Games bid is part of India's dream of hosting the 2036 Olympic Games. Tolagele Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
5:45 right now. Let's get the very latest from the roads. Karabo Chale, good afternoon.
Afternoon, John. Leaving Sandton, traffic remains heavily backed up. This is heading towards Midrand, M1 northbound from Ethel Oaklands to the Butlu interchange. Midrand, that's traveling into Sandton. Bumper-to-bumper traffic on the M1 southbound from New Road all the way to the Butlu interchange. In Roodepoort, traffic sluggish. This is heading towards Soweto, N1 southbound between 14th Avenue and the N17. In Durban Deep, Roodepoort, bumper-to-bumper traffic on Randfontein Road between Milestalker and Adcock, while in Devlin there's slow-moving traffic on the Golden Highway between the N1 and Union Avenue due to ongoing roadworks. Also traffic pressure in Protea Glen, Soweto on the R559 main road opposite GOG Gardens. And if you're leaving the Pretoria CBD, there's huge delays. This is in the Hermanstad area on Eskiam Pahlele. This is between Vormhagen and Paul Kruger. Also, Pretoria North, expect some delays on Mastiff Paul Kruger Road. This is between Fred Nicholson and Rachel De Beer. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
John Perlman
on 702.
3 to 6 p.m.
702 Drive, 14 minutes to 6. I know it sounds a long way away, and I guess objectively it is. 2027 is, well, what it is, 2 years away. That's when South Africa will be hosting the Cricket World Cup. Now, obviously, team preparations, getting stadiums ready, and so on is one thing. The team is doing pretty well in the 50-over game at the moment, so you would say those preparations are on track, and our venues are pretty good as well. Tourist infrastructure, we should be okay on that. But one of the most important aspects of hosting a World Cup like this, if the chairperson of the local organizing committee for the World Cup, is to make sure that the game is made available to more and more South Africans, particularly in communities where cricket has not been accessible. Cricket is not one of those games where you can go as far as you might in something like football with limited resources. And I say that because eventually, particularly if your skill is batting, or a skill that you need to acquire is getting out in the middle and defending a wicket and scoring some runs as well, you actually need at a certain point to get facilities at a particular level. Now, that all makes very timely an interesting article that has been written and shared on the platform, The Conversation, by the Professor in Health and Sports Science at the University of Johannesburg. Professor Habib Noorbai has done a massive study, in fact. He's looked at the school backgrounds of 1,080 elite men's cricketers across 8 countries over a 30-year period. And what he's found in general, but particularly in regard to our own country, requires a great deal of addressing. He joins us now on 702 Drive. Prof. Noorbai, welcome, and thanks very much for giving us your time to talk about this very interesting study. In South Africa, as in the United Kingdom, England particularly, of course, being at the heart of cricket in that part of the world, and in Australia, private schools dominate. Tell us why.
John, it's great to be here. Thanks very much for having me. I think it does follow the old elitist system, specifically with South Africa, England, Australia, where traditionally there would be a higher probability that if you wanted any of your kids, specifically boys, particular players, to have a higher chance of success to go to a private school or a boys-only school where sport and cricket is really emphasized. We see that in the literature. Interestingly, out of the 8 countries that I looked at, South Africa is the only country where more than 50% of their cricket players do come from a private or a boys-only school. And many of the other nations, it's below 50%, but in the nations that have a more diverse pipeline of talent pathways, it's below 35%. And that's not in the case of where elitism formally is being practiced.
My understanding from the obviously the very much summarized version of what you've written, Prof, is that young cricketers from, let's just say, townships, but presumably rural areas as well, can get a certain distance in learning the fundamentals of the game in the environments where they grow up. But then if they are to reach elite levels, they really depend hugely on that private school scholarship.
Absolutely. We're seeing that in most instances, that when we do see talent that come from under-resourced communities, one of the only distinctive aspects that we would be able to nurture that talent is that if they are given a scholarship to a private or a boys-only school, we know that there's a handful of players who have represented in the case of South Africa who may not have done so, but a vast majority did follow that particular pathway. And the reason why this is so significant in the context of being successful in cricket, and I define success as the area of where you represent your country at the national level, is that the schools produce the facilities, the high levels of coaching, the environment. There's a fantastic cricket culture embedded within it, the level of coaching, the level of exposure. A number of these schools are feeder systems to higher up. So there's a culmination of factors and contextual determinants that contribute towards well-rounded success for these players who do end up going to, particularly in South Africa, 30 to 40 of those schools out of more than 5,000 schools in South Africa. Which means that if you're not going to about less than 1% of those schools that are feeders in the context of cricket, then there's a lower chance of your child actually being successful in the game.
I want to engage with you a bit, Prof, because you did suggest, and maybe you can clarify this, that one measure of this is, how many people make it to an elite level. Isn't there, though, an important measure where because that number is always going to be small, just given the nature of the game and the relatively small size of, for example, our franchise cricket, where we don't have a great many franchises. But back to the question I want to ask you, do we not need to create a whole set of measures at other levels? In other words, how many young people get to play the game regularly with good coaching and decent facilities? Is there a set of metrics that we can set for that, and maybe around that develop a plan to meet them?
Absolutely. I think there's certainly a requirement to have the more diversified structures and pathways for talent development and success. And I think most of the time we use school as a feeder for school is a main pathway for success in the context of cricket or even rugby. But we find that with other countries, they have diversified or lateralized pathways for both talent identification and in terms of providing the structures or resources for those particular athletes to thrive. And so we can't just really focus on one area. I mean, conventionally and traditionally, we do have in South Africa, we have a number of schools who do go on to players who go on to represent their province in the Kaya Mojola or in the SA schools or South Africa 19 have come from very good schools. And I think there is a need, case in point, to diversify both the structures and the pathways for cricket talent development. We're not saying that the elite schools are a problem, the private or boys-only schools are a problem, not at all. I mean, they're doing a lot of good work. It's the government that needs to step in to broaden the pipeline for where talent is really needed to be identified, and then providing the structures and resources and good coaches and funding to ensure that we can kind of level the playing field by not just focusing on the less than 1% of the feeder system.
Cricket is a terrible game. Probably because I was terrible at it, but I think there's something inherently terrible about cricket. I'll find another word for it. But seriously though, the margins of error, particularly if you're a batsman, but I think it can be true if you're a bowler as well, where if you make a mistake, not only do you go out, but you don't get to play. I think it contrasts sharply with soccer and rugby. If you drop the ball with a try line in your sights, you go back, you make a saving tackle, you remain involved. Does that have to factor into our planning in some way? Because my train of thought is that young people who aspire to the game, move up in the game, but then fail, do so in the context of these very fine margins. Can we do anything about that, or is that the breaks?
Well, cricket is a little bit different. It's quite complex in that nature.
Yes.
Looking at a number of factors that contribute towards success, of athletes. Compared to 10 to 15 years ago, we have a landscape where it's really competitive. And so if you're taking all the number of cricket players in hundreds of thousands and you're putting all of them into a kind of like a funnel, we find that only a handful of those successful athletes would come out of the funnel to go on to play, cricket professionally. And so there's a number of contributing factors that contribute towards athletes going into that kind of funnel, which is like that kind of pipeline that we get, that we call it. So it is a multifactorial process. So it's very hard to kind of isolate 1, 2, 3, or 5 aspects of its success. But from a resource and a structural perspective, this does cast a spotlight around how inclusive are our talent structures right now, not just in South Africa, but in other countries as well. Because my paper in 2020 cast a spotlight on South Africa, but this particular paper said, how do we use this methodology from that paper and understand what's happening in the broader context of global cricket? And we're finding that on a majority level, that if these players are not going to these particular systems or structures, they're not really being identified as scout. And so there is a requirement to diversify talent pools. And I think India has done that well. Sri Lanka has done that well. We find that their context is quite different to the countries like South Africa or England, Australia, or New Zealand. And so that's what we really need, is to cast the net wide. Don't cast it narrow and then just select from that narrow channel.
Thank you very much. So much more to talk about. It is a topic that we will revisit, I assure you, because that legacy stuff, as we move towards the hosting of another World Cup. Hope there's a Rugby World Cup somewhere in our future. But interesting stuff indeed. Go to theconversation.com and read what's been researched and written by Professor Habib Noorbai. He's a professor in health and sports science at the University of Johannesburg.
Do you know what's hiding behind colorful packaging of unhealthy food? Big food companies target children with unhealthy packaged foods that hide high levels of sugar, salt, and fat, which could lead to heart disease, diabetes, and hypertension. But the truth is hidden from consumers. Front-of-package warning labels are a proven solution to help consumers make informed decisions. The government must act now. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front-of-package warning labels. Sign the petition on heala.org, HEALA.org, by 30 September.
Every day I'm hustling. It's our reality as business owners. And it's good to know that there's someone out there who takes care of the business that makes the business. Gotta love My Way Business Insurance. Saving big on premiums with 24/7 emergency services, plus My Business Assist with marketing, legal, and labor advice services.
Visit myway.co.za or dial 0860 64 64 64 and get a quote today. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and standard rates apply. My Way. Live your way.
Elevate your flying experience with Lift Premium. Enjoy even more space, comfort, and convenience with priority boarding, extra baggage allowance, and complimentary lounge access. Visit lift.co.za today.
Drive Home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
Prof, I do not agree with you. The key issue you're supposed to be addressing is that why those very traditional boys schools that you're talking about are not producing black African batters. Yes, they are producing 1 or 2 bowlers but in general, statistically, there's a lack of black African batters, and that's why the game has remained elitist.
Yeah, there's so many layers to this conversation, and I think there's something. I keep using the word terrible. I haven't found another one, but there is something incredibly exacting about being a batsman in cricket, and I'm not for a minute minimizing how difficult bowling is, because candidly, I was very, very poor at both. But there's something about the fact that when you make a mistake, and if you make consistent mistakes while you're batting, you don't get to bat. You don't get to perform. I wonder how many sports there are that are like that. But it's opened up a very interesting conversation, and I'm looking forward to pursuing it as we focus around cricket and we look at what the country's going to do in the build-up to the 2027 World Cup. 2 years is a long time in the life cycle of elite sport, but 2 years is not very long at all if you look at development in sports cycles. It takes a while to put things in place. It takes a while to see what you're not getting right. And crucially, it takes a long time to reap the fruit. So glad we got it started. We'll pick it up as the months unfold. I'm John Perlman. Have a wonderful Thursday. From all of us, good night.
And now, The Money Show.
With Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
And DSTV channel 856.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB, proud sponsor of the SARA Rail Conference 2025. Powering progress, connecting economies. Good evening on your Money Show tonight. Impala Platinum CEO Indako Matlachana on his outlook for the platinum price. Nersa gets their power price sums wrong again, meaning you will have to pay nearly 9% more for power. The IDC CEO Momkhoshi Lekete on whether giving more money to ArcelorMittal is ever going to bring a return. Why we spend quite so much time on car websites, and also tonight, which cell phone network has the best call quality. All of that to come, but first, the very latest Eyewitness News.
Good evening, I'm Maki Molapo. National Police Commissioner Fani Masemola has announced the opening of a political killings task team for the Gauteng province. This is in light of the work done by the KwaZulu-Natal Political Killings Task Team in supporting police in the province. Today, Masemola announced that the 121 dockets which had been taken from the KwaZulu-Natal team by crime detection boss Shadrack Sibiya would be returned. This return of the dockets means investigations would continue. Masemola says the Gauteng Political Task Team will be launching in about 4 weeks.
We'll be having a similar team in Gauteng because we have a number of unresolved cases in Gauteng that are matter of politicians and also tax-related that are quite complex.
We move to the east of Johannesburg, where mourners gathered at the family home of late Eyewitness News associate politics editor Cidi Madia have remembered her not only as a respected journalist, but a daughter of the Germiston community with a great impact. The 42-year-old journalist died in Johannesburg Hospital yesterday after battling a short illness. Hundreds of tributes continue to pour in since the news of her passing, which has shocked South Africa's media fraternity, where she was known for her sharp political reporting and her warm, disarming style. President Cyril Ramaphosa lauded Cidi for being a journalist who cared deeply for South Africa, describing her as a remarkable citizen and thought leader. Meanwhile, family, friends, colleagues and government representatives continue to trickle into the family home. Family spokesperson Mahlatsi Mahlasi.
We know that this is a shared loss because Cidi loved what she did and she loved her colleagues and she extended of herself to her colleagues.
The Western Cape Mobility Department has approached the courts to interdict taxi associations CATA and CODETA amid escalating taxi violence. A long-standing dispute over a route from Mfuleni and Khayelitsha to Somerset West has claimed the lives of 5 people. 9 other people were injured in shootings at taxi ranks in Philippi East, Khayelitsha and Makassar this week. Ntutuzelo Nene has more.
The Western Cape Mobility Department wants the High Court to compel CATA and CODETA
to stop the recent deadly shootings in Cape Town. Speaking in the provincial legislature today, Mobility MEC Isaac Seleku says if the shootings don't stop, they'll be forced to shut down affected routes.
Should closures be necessary, Somlomo, a contingency transport plan is being placed